video. So I recently did a video on my likes and dislikes of the Porsche Boxster. So I thought it only fair that I do the same with this car. So today's video is my likes and dislikes about the Porsche 993 1995 model, January 95. It has a manual gearbox, sunroof, air conditioning and the early style sports seats. So I've had this car for 12 years at this point in time, and when we talk about dislikes, I'll tell you straight away, I'm still very much in love with the car, so to talk about dislikes is quite hard for me to do, so I'm going to be as objective as I can be and as truthful as I can be. But I'm talking about my dislikes with this car because there's not very many. One of them would be, this car is comparatively rare and it's quite valuable, so you can be quite picky about when and where you drive it, which is counterintuitive because I always say you've got to drive these cars often, and I do try and drive the car often, but as an example, I'd be very careful about where I take the car, where I park it. I wouldn't be in a hurry to park it in supermarkets, for example, in the car parks, or if I go to the gym, I wouldn't park it in the gym car park. Why? Because I have done it before, and what usually happens is you'll find an empty space in the car park at the far corner somewhere, and there's no one parking anywhere near, so you'll park in the far away corner where there's no other cars. You'll come out for the gym, and sure enough, there will be a people carrier now parked next to you with a family of 7 having swung the doors open and bailed out, you know, not really caring at all about door dings. So it's a door ding nightmare, and door dings aren't the end of the world. By the way, we're going quite slow, there's a cyclist up here, so we're just going slow for him. Door dings aren't the worst thing that can happen, but they're a wee bit annoying, and I would rather avoid it if I could. So that's the first thing I would say. Pretty picky about where I drive it, the conditions that I drive in, try and avoid the rain, and it rains a lot in Scotland. And so there you go, so you're kind of limited as to what you would do. It's not the kind of car you just think about, or don't think about, you know, just jump in and go and not care. You do care very much. That's just the way it is. So the car can start to own you a wee bit rather than you owning the car, and you've got to be careful of that. So that's probably the first thing. Second thing, fairly minor, you know, it's like there's always something to do with old 911s. You've always got a wee list of things to do. Right now I've got some things I want to do in this car, and it's usually either preventative measures or just basic service items, and they range, but you've usually got a wee list of things to do. Not a deal breaker, that's just, again, that's part of the thing. Another wee niggle would be, parts can be quite expensive, albeit most of the time they're usually good value because they last a long time. And a lot of parts you can buy, you don't have to go to Porsche for a lot of these bits and pieces, you can buy them aftermarket or whatever. But yeah, Porsche prices generally can be quite expensive, and that's the same for most Porsches. Other things, I'm really trying hard now to think of negatives here. The steering wheel could be better. It's perfectly fine, right? But when you think about a wee Momo steering wheel or something like that, it could be a little bit smaller, a little bit sportier. By the way, I don't modify my cars. I just don't like. I prefer to keep them. When it comes to Porsches, I prefer to keep it standard. Porsche did a really good job of everything, despite what I'm saying about the steering wheel and things like that. You know, overall they've done a really good job. And to go faffing about with it, I don't really see the value with the cars that I've got. I prefer to keep them standard, you know. So, but just to contradict all of that, I wouldn't rule out having a kind of hot rod 911 in the future where it's heavily modified. Maybe have something, you know, like an SC or something like that from the 80s, and then really do something with it. But for the 993 and the Boxster, for example, that we're talking about today, I prefer them standard. That's just me. Some people prefer to heavily modify them, and that's great as well, with a lot of reversible modifications. So yeah, so the wee steering wheel, a better steering wheel would have been nicer. Perhaps another wee negative would be, you've got to be careful when you take these cars to get serviced. You've got to build up a relationship with someone, a mechanic that you trust, a basic mechanic who can do general stuff, as well as an independent garage who you know can take care of the car. I won't name and shame, but I've been to a couple that were less than good. So you've got to make sure you've got somewhere that you can go to take your pride and joy to, that you're going to be happy with them working on it. And you've got to be picky with that. Some people, unfortunately, think when you've got one of these cars that you've clearly got a lot of money to spend, and some independent garages will just, as a matter of course, not overcharge you, but they'll be quite generous with their wee fees, you know, and their labour. And I've even heard stories of people finding things to do that weren't really needing done. I've experienced that as well. So that's a wee bit of a negative. Some garages, unless you trust them and you've built up a relationship with them, can automatically assume that you've got loads of money to spend, and they'll happily try and spend it for you. You've got to be wary of that. But that's the same for all Porsches, I would say, not just this one. But it's a wee slight negative to bear in mind. Other thing is, although you can daily these cars, a lot of people do daily drive them. I personally don't daily drive this because, well, I've got other cars to do the kind of daily commute. I didn't really want to sit in traffic in this car and on the motorway on a November morning, you know, where it's peeing down a rain. I would get a bit tiresome. So I use my old Golf for the daily duties and for carrying the bike and things like that. And that's fine by me, because it means you can get to enjoy this car and it still feels pretty special and different when you get into it. So really that's probably going to be it, I think, for the negatives, and it is minor stuff, isn't it? I mean, it's not really negative. You could say the same for a lot of cars. It's not specific really to this car, I don't think, but that's my experience, and I thought I'd share it with you just for you to give you something to think a wee bit about if you're going to buy one. Now, let's talk about the positives, of which for me there are many. So let's talk a little bit about the positives, which is a lot easier for me to do. So first off, I still love the way the car looks. I mean, that's the first thing I would say about the car. It just looks, to me anyway, it just looks beautiful. And to a lot of people online that discuss the car, and a lot of the forums that we're on and the Facebook groups and all the rest of it, everyone seems to really enjoy the photos. And I don't think I've ever heard anyone come back and say that the 993 is ugly. There maybe is some people that prefer the earlier models, but most people agree that the curves on this car and the way it looks is just, it's a beautiful thing. I love how compact it is. It's still very small compared to the modern Porsches that seem a bit more bloated in comparison. I mean, this car, it's a strange thing because although it is quite small, or not, it's not small at all, it's compact I should say, and it's perfectly proportioned. You've got a lot of headroom here, the windscreen's quite close to your face. I can touch the passenger door quite easily. You know, visibility is brilliant, you can really see round about. So although it's compact, it manages to not feel cramped or small at all, actually. You're sitting quite low in this car and all, you're quite, you know, your bum's just off the deck. So although it's the size of it, it feels bigger than what it is. It just feels the perfect size to me anyway. And to me it's a perfect size for sports cars. And it's chuckable and manoeuvrable on the road. So yeah, how it looks and how it is inside. I love the driving position. Again, quite low, steering wheel's right here, everything's at hand, everything you want. Gear stick right here, you know, it's just everything just falls to hand intuitively. So I love that about it. I love how it drives, I love the feeling. But here we are in quite a rough road and the suspension's fairly supple and it's just soaking it up. I love the feeling that you get when you drive this car, and it's like a kind of I've mentioned it before in my books, it's a combination of, you know, the old 911 smell, the kind of oil and leather, and petrol smell, and the old school smell of the cars. Dead distinctive. Coupled with the feeling that you get when you drive, how everything is over-engineered, everything feels solid and well built, like it's got loads of power in reserve. Just, you know, everything you touch just feels like it's going to last forever in this 911. The newer ones are well built as well, but they're not quite as well built in the same way, in my opinion. The old air-cooled 911s were just different. They were built at a time where engineering took precedence over cost. And that was almost Porsche's undoing, by the way, but engineers had the final say with these cars. Whereas the more modern cars, it's more about the accountants and what they can sometimes cut corners with. So I love that. I love the over-engineered feel of the thing. And how, like I say, it's got everything, it seems to have everything in reserve. Power, braking. It can take whatever you throw at it, and it will just keep asking you for more, it seems like. So I love that about it. I love the old school dash, the 5-dial layout, which was the same dashboard for the early 911s away back from 1964 onwards. It's almost the exact same layout. In fact, the interior's not really changed much since then. So I love how they've kept to the tradition of the 911s all through this lineage, right up until these cars. You just get a feeling like you're driving something of some sort of a historical importance, which is great, you know. Also, I love how it's speaking about historical importance, I love how it's got that, it's the last of the air-cooled models. You know, it's almost like, it's the last of the breed, and there's something kind of special, I think, about that, and kind of cool about it. I just love having something that will never be redone by the manufacturer anyway. And that feels special. And I'll say, just owning this car to me feels special. Even when you're not driving it through the winter or whatever, or as often, just having it in the garage, where you can open the garage door, see the kind of wide rear end, look at it, you know, it's I'm sure you guys can relate to this. There's just something really cool about that for me, and there's a lot of pleasure to be had in just owning this car. I mean, driving's even better, of course, but sometimes just knowing that it's there for you to drive is awesome. So I love that about it. I love the positive reaction you get from people. Some people are really, you know, are happy to see it on the road. There's something about this car, it doesn't come across too ostentatious or too showy. It's got a kind of friendly aura about it, I think. It's the two headlights at the front, two smiling headlights, you know, and the smiling face at the front. It's got a friendliness about it. It's not got loads of spoilers. It doesn't seem to be trying too hard, this car. It just seems to, it has a kind of a purposeful elegance about it that people seem to relate to on the road, and people give you the thumbs up sometimes, and they want to chat with you about it. I've had people driving alongside me and take clips of it and stuff like that. And you know, it's lovely to have that reaction, because you don't see a lot of them, and that's something that I also like about this car. You don't see very many. In fact, I hardly ever see any of them on the road. I think in all the years I've had this, I've seen one other one, and it looks the same colour as this out here. But to see one on the road is a kind of rare thing. I also like how they don't depreciate like modern Porsches. So these cars have actually appreciated in money terms over the course of me owning it. So that's good. It's not the reason for me buying it. It's not an investment, but to not lose your shot in depreciation is a bonus, because it means that the money that you spend upkeeping it is offset with the value that it appreciates by every other year, and you end up, you know, with something that's actually earned money rather than cost you money, which is the icing on the cake, really. But I love how these cars don't depreciate anymore. Trying to think of what else. You know, I could probably go on about the things that I love or the things that I like about this car, but I think you probably get the picture now. There are some dislikes, but there's more likes than dislikes, and I would say if you're sitting on the fence and you fancy one of these but you're not sure about buying one, I would recommend it. a good starting place if you're looking to buy any Porsche would be my Porsche books, of course. So if you're interested in reading about my Porsche books, reading more about me, I think the Porsche books that I've written will really help you with that and give you a really good grounding to get started. So thanks for watching, give us a wee thumbs up and a wee comment, and if you're interested in my Porsche books, I'll link them below. So thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you on the next video.